Richard Scott would beat everybody off of pit road to take the lead of the race as we pass halfway. However, he is now in a swarm of lap traffic as he's just gotten around Tommy Haynes and now has to deal with Dale Clow, Jesus Ignacio Chavez III, and Lawrence Burr. However, the good news for Scott, he has about a good 3 seconds over second, which belongs to Gio Arias, who leads a small 3-truck pack, also consisting of Dylan Andrew and Jacob Wesley. But the good news about this is some contact between Andrew and Arias. As I was saying, the good news about this is these guys are drafting off of each other while Scott is by himself and in lap traffic. So this group here is going to quickly reel in Scott as Andrew now making a move on Arias for second. The day goes from bad to worse for Vincenzo Focasato, who shortly after green flag stops conclude, comes back into pit road for more issues and will lose even more laps as a result. Dan Edwards has gotten one of his laps back as a result of not pitting yet, but we gotta remember that he cut a tire 5 laps after the last restart, so he's due to come into pit road within the next couple of laps unless he gets a caution, which then he'll be able to remain 1 lap down and potentially race to get his other lap back. Problems with the right side of Bradley Carlisle's trucks is going to bring him back to pit road, and it's going to cause him to lose a number of laps, effectively killing any chances he had on ending his truck career with 4 straight wins. 6 laps after everybody else have pitted, Dan Edwards is going to come in for his scheduled stop. This is going to put him back 2 laps down. Matter of fact, he's going to come back out on the tail end of 2 laps down. Mike Howard is now running in the 6th position ahead of Pascal Valley as the field's very spread out after those green flag pit stops. The good news for him is that Chuck Johnson, who was in 5th, is running by himself right now. So these two are going to catch up to him eventually, but Howard's going to need more than that if he's going to try to win this championship, because the field is way too spread out for him to try to win this race if we go the rest of the way green. Richard Scott has yet to maneuver his way around this lap traffic, and to add to his frustrations, that 3-truck pack has now caught up to him, which is now being led by Dylan Andrew, and it looks like Andrew is having a much easier time maneuvering around this traffic than Scott is, as Scott just got around Vincenzo Focasato. I'm questioning why Focasato is even still trying at this point. And now, Scott is stuck behind Lawrence Burr as Andrew now gets around Focasato. Andrew is now right behind Scott as Burr is still not getting out of Scott's way. There's contact between Scott and Burr. Okay, that's one way to get somebody out of your way, as Andrew now has a run on the outside, but Scott's going to hold him off. And as I mentioned earlier, you see Dan Edwards on the tail end of 2 laps down, about to be put 3 laps down. And it looks like Burr isn't done impeding trucks just yet, as he's now holding up Gio Arias in 3rd. As Arias gets into the back of him, he's not having any of that, but Burr comes back up, and Arias is over as Arias slides across the backstretch on his roof, as that is the 3rd caution of the day after a nearly 50-lap green flag run, as Burr's impeding is going to take him and Arias out of the race. Now it seems to me that Arias saw a small opening, but Burr refused to give him that opening, as it looks like from that angle, Burr cut in front of Arias, and the end result is Arias ended up on his roof. And he slid pretty much across the entire length of the backstretch on his roof, and on his roof is where he would stay. The race would be red flagged for a brief period as safety workers flipped the truck back on its wheels. Arias did climb out of the truck under his own power once they did so, but still a vicious wreck for the 2-time race winner. Thank God nobody hit him while he was upside down, as you're going to see the camera go out here. Also, you probably didn't notice, but Jacob Wesley got a big piece of that as well, but only Arias and Burr would retire from the race as a result of this accident. But meanwhile, Dylan Andrew managed to get around Richard Scott for the lead, coming to the caution, and Dan Edwards, who's in front of them, managed to stay only 2 laps down. And that is also the caution that Mike Howard needed if he's going to win the championship, as everybody's going to come down pit road under this caution. Everybody would have had to come in one more time under green anyway, so they're all going to come into pit road, and these should be their final stops of the race. And it will be Richard Scott who beats everybody off of pit road to retake the lead of the race. Mike Howard is restarting in 2nd. As you see, Dan Edwards starting on Scott's inside. Remember, he's 2 laps down and actually has a passing Scott to get one of his laps back, and he's now only 1 lap down. Bradley Carlisle's doing the same, however he was 3 laps down. Now if we get a couple of more cautions, then Edwards could find himself back on the lead lap. And as I'm talking about that, Mike Howard is making a move for the lead, and it looks like he is going to get it coming out of 4, as it doesn't look like the 2 lap cars ahead of them are holding them up, and they're actually still on pace with them. As you see, Pascal Valley now up behind Howard as well. He's trying to get second from Scott. And why is Focusato still racing with the leaders? But anyway, 3 wide as they're going down the backstretch. Howard still has the lead, but Scott's fighting back for it though. He doesn't have much help on the top, as Howard's got Valley to help him on the bottom. As Valley now making a move for the lead, as Scott's now back to 3rd. Edwards is now back 2 laps down, as there is a swarm of lap trucks between the top 3 and Patrick Johansson, who is in 4th. Dylan Andrew has dropped like a rock after that restart and is now struggling to keep up with the pack despite him leading before that caution. Now, I don't know if there's anything wrong with that truck. I didn't see any contact during that last round of pit stops. There really isn't any damage on that truck that he hasn't had for the entire race from the first set of pit stops. So, I don't know what's up. The damage that Jacob Wesley received in that last caution would turn out to be too substantial for him to continue, and he would bring that truck behind the wall 4 laps after the restart. He was running about 20 miles per hour off the pace, and his day would come to an end. But meanwhile, his teammate Richard Scott has taken the lead from Chuck Johnson, as there are now 3 lap trucks in between the 2 of them, which are Jesus Ignacio Chavez III, Dan Edwards, and Bradley Carlisle. Okay, first off, how is Chavez still keeping up with these guys? Now, I know Carlisle and Edwards are lap down because they're on weird pit cycles, but matter of fact, as I'm saying that now, Chavez is proceeding to get freight trained. But anyway, Scott holds the lead still, as now Pascal Valley is now in 2nd and is now going to make a move for the lead. Johnson's still in 2nd, well 3rd. He's about to take 2nd as Valley takes the lead. Edwards and Carlisle are still poking their nose in this fight, even though they shouldn't. As Valley takes the lead, Johnson now in 2nd, as now Edwards and Carlisle are now under Johnson to give Valley sort of a buffer between him and 2nd place. But eventually Scott would shuffle his way back into the lead, taking Johnson with them. Valley moves back to 3rd as Carlisle and Edwards are still meddling with this fight, as Johnson is trying to make, oh wait, there's a contact between Scott and Carlisle. Apparently somebody's starting to get fed up with their presence in this lead pack, as now Samantha Spires is now joining the fight as well. Remember, she lost the pack before those green flag pit stops, and now looks like she has a shot to win the race as we're entering the closing stages, and Carlisle's still not getting out of Scott's way as Scott gets to the back of him again. And after that contact, I think Carlisle then got the hint and is going to move out of Scott's way. Pascal Valley is going to follow suit, however, Carlisle is now going to hold up Johnson. While all that's going on, Mike Howard is just sitting in the back of this pack as Scott just got freight trained by the whole pack. Now, he is running out of time. We are now within 30 laps to go. He needs to win the race in order to win the championship, and how is Chavez still hanging on with the pack? You know what, actually, forget about Chavez. Why is Drew McDaniel still on this pack and is the 4th car in line? I don't know, but let's forget about that and let's focus on what's in front of him, and that is Patrick Johansson going under Samantha Spires for the lead, as Dan Edwards is now ahead of these 2. He's now back only 1 lap down, now only needs the caution, and that would greatly benefit him, as now Mike Howard has moved his way up into 3rd as we're approaching 20 to go, and Chavez is still with this pack as they're running 3 wide behind them. Richard Scott is in the middle of this, and why is Focusato still racing with these guys? Oh, Scott's around. He gets turned as he comes back up on the track into Drew McDaniel, and the caution is going to come out with 20 laps to go. Scott is going to drive away, but with a considerable amount of damage. McDaniel is damaged as well, however, he will also keep going. Now we're going to take a look at this from above, as you really can't tell who caused that, because as you see, before Scott spins out, that Pascal Valley and Bradley Carlisle were getting into each other, and possibly a chain reaction of that probably is what spun Scott out. Again, really hard to figure out what the exact cause was, as his onboard shot of Chuck Johnson was right behind this, and Chevrolet just pushed the 7 into the 27. I don't know what the hell he was thinking. Well, you heard it there from Johnson, who was right behind the whole thing. Valley pushed up into Carlisle, which in turn causes him to turn Scott. As you also heard Johnson mention, don't know what Valley was thinking racing a lap truck that hard, as that could have been a much bigger mess, as you saw Johnson narrowly avoid it. But anyway, no harm, no foul, as nobody would retire from the race from that, as the restart would come out with only 15 laps to go, 14 trucks on track, 7 on the lead lap, as Patrick Johansson will lead them to the green flag. Samantha Spires in second, and Mike Howard in third. He now has only 15 laps to try to win the race and the FARC LoBo Truck Tour Championship, as it looks like he won't get any bonus points in this race, meaning he'll have to win the race in order to win the championship. And while I was talking about that, it appears that the lap trucks have formed some sort of barricade blocking the leaders. Chuck Johnson on the inside, it looks like he's eventually going to overtake Johansson for the lead, as Focasato leads this group. I think someone forgot to mention to him that he's 6 laps down. But anyway, Johnson is going to take the lead and eventually get past Focasato. However, he's still stuck behind Carlisle. But eventually, Pascal Valley is going to take the lead from Johnson, although they're both still behind Carlisle, as Johnson tries to make a move on the outside. However, you really can't get much momentum up there, as Dan Edwards is now following Johnson. Edwards is now 1 lap down. I think maybe some contact between Carlisle and Valley, but yeah, Edwards is 1 lap down. He needs one more caution to see if he can get back on the lead lap. However, it is getting late in the race now for that to happen, as Johnson, because of that contact before, takes back the lead. Here is Mike Howard, who is in the back of this pack, now getting under Samantha Spires for the 4th position. The laps are winding down as these guys and girl are starting to navigate through this lap traffic, as Howard's going to get under both Carlisle and Jesus Ignacio Chavez the third, as now he has Focasato to deal with. Okay, park the truck already. You're 6 laps down. Why are you racing these guys in the first place? Back up front, Chuck Johnson still in the lead. Pascal Valley still in second. Patrick Johansson is now right behind these guys as they come out of turn 2. Oh, I think maybe this was a contact between Valley and Johnson, as we now got 9 laps to go.
How many times are we going to be running into this race? Is that fight you're always messing with?
Like you just heard, that wasn't the first time Johnson has been run into today. And as far as that whole know who he's messing with stuff, I think he was implying that he is the NPCC champion, which I'm sure nobody in the field gives a crap about. Johnson has had a history of being somewhat of an egomaniac. But enough about that. Back up front, Mike Howard has worked his way up to third, passing Patrick Johansson. There's no more lap traffic to get in their way, except for Dan Edwards, who's trying to get a lead lap finish, as the field's now going to come across Richard Scott, who's been off the pace since being damaged in the last caution. Johnson's going to get around Scott, but he's going to hold up everybody else. This means Johnson will get a huge lead coming to 6 laps to go. However, that is not a good thing, as the field's quickly going to catch up to him. Johnson, who had 4 wins in his championship-winning NPCC season. However, despite being consistent, he has never won a race here in trucks. However, he only has to hold off everybody else for 5.5 more laps in order to take his first ever Truck Series victory and possibly keep his career alive. Also, towards the end of the race, Jesus Ignacio Chavez III is going to cut a tire and is going to bring it down pit road. Chavez, who was already running 1 lap down, this issue is probably going to cost him a top 10 finish, as there were only 6 trucks on the lead lap to begin with. Back up front, the rest of the lead group has caught up to Chuck Johnson with only 5 laps to go in the race. With the exception of Dan Edwards, this group is all lead lap trucks. Speaking of which, Edwards is going under Johnson. Edwards wants to finish on the lead lap, but it looks like Mike Howard's going with them. And if this works out, Howard should take the lead of this race coming to the line. And it looks like he is going to do it. Mike Howard now leads the race with only 4 laps to go. And now he pretty much has to fight for his life in order to defend that spot, because if he does, he will be the 2014 champion, as they're now coming to 3 laps to go. But he's got 4 other trucks fighting for that same spot. Dan Edwards no longer an issue as they go into turn 1. Patrick Johansson now in second, Johnson back to third. Now is Johansson going to make a move on Howard, going out of 2, and it looks like he's got a run going down the backstretch. Edwards, like I said, no longer an issue, but Howard's going to shut the door on Johansson as they go into turn 3. Howard looks like he's going to keep the lead as they're going to come to 2 to go at the line. 2 years ago at Rockford, this team, Last Row Autosport, made a complete fool of themselves in the B-Mains for the Rockford 200, but since then, this team has more than redeemed themselves when Howard won 2 races last season out of the 6 he attempted, along with his performance this season, despite being outclassed by Jeremy Baker all season. And as Pascavalli has moved up into second, as you just saw in the shot before, the field is catching up to Drew McDaniel. Remember, he is also damaged as they come out of turn 4. This is it. It all comes down to this. White flag is out. Will McDaniel decide the outcome of the championship? Howard gets by him, but he's going to hold up the rest of the field. And Howard's going to open up a huge lead because of it. Mike Howard entered this race with impossible odds to win the championship. However, when his competition wrecked out of the race on lap 9, it was pretty much win or die for him. And it looks like as he comes into 3 and into 4, he is going to do the impossible. Mike Howard is going to win the race, but more importantly, he will be the 2014 FARC LoBo Truck Tour Champion. An amazing drive by Howard, taking advantage of Baker's misfortunes in order to win the race and the championship. Before we show you the final standings, let's take a look at the rest of the top 10 finishers. Pascavalli earns his best career finish in 2nd, even though this is only his 3rd start. Chuck Johnson finishes in 3rd, which is his 3rd top 5 of the season, despite him not running the whole year. Great run for Johnson, who probably wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for Cat Motorsports buying the Johnson Family Racing Team's truck equipment and fielding an entry for Johnson. Wait a second, isn't that the same name of the team that... Oh god. If that is the case, then Frank's going to be pissed. Please excuse my rambling there. Long story short, let's just say that a fight's probably going to ensue at Cat Motorsports for this decision, even though it was only a 1-race deal. But anyway, let us continue. Patrick Johansson finishes 4th. That is his best career finish. For a guy whose season's been filled with nothing but engine blow-ups, that is a great run for him. The fact that he was contended for the win the entire race is nothing short of amazing. Great run for Johansson. Samantha Spires finishes in 5th. Another top 5 run for her. Shame that we didn't see more of her this season. Dylan Andrew, who finished in 6th, lost a pack on that final run. However, I believe he was held up by Drew McDaniel, which was the result of that. But still a great run for Andrew, who was also contended for the win for much of the race. And also, while I'm saying that, props to a lot of the regulars who we have not seen contend for wins at all this season and have been greatly outpaced by the teams that chose to run a limited schedule. All those guys were able to run up front, some of them even contended for the win, and we saw one even win the race, which is only the 2nd time that's happened all season, and I'd like to give all of them a job well done. Dan Edwards finishes 7th, the last truck on the lead lap, finished actually on the tail end of the lead lap, was almost 3 laps down at a point of this race, and he manages to walk away with a lead lap finish, so good for him. Tommy Haynes, the guy that everybody wanted to strangle after Langhorne, finishes in 8th, the first truck 1 lap down, and also gets the hard charger bonus. While 8th may not seem like a big deal, being that only 14 trucks finished, the Brian Burke Racing team could leave here with something to be proud of. And speaking of back markers, Dale Clow, who finished 4th last week at Salem, finishes 9th here at Texas. So Clow earns a 4th and a 9th place finish to end the season, and I'd like to say good for him. And rounding out the top 10 is Richard Scott, who fell a lap down after receiving damage in the lap 82 caution. It's a shame too, because he also could have had a shot to win this race, but he still leaves with a top 10 finish. And now, here are the final standings for the 2014 FARC LoBo Truck Tour season. In the end, Mike Howard, by winning the race, beats Jeremy Baker, who finished 26th, by 16 points. And despite them being the only 2 regulars to win a race this season, Baker has definitely been the class of the field among the regulars, with 1 win, 4 top 5s, which leads the regulars, 6 top 10s, along with 4 DNFs in 12 races. Howard beats them with only 2 top 5 finishes, but Howard has 1 more top 10 finish. Both of them, of course, have a win and also have 4 DNFs. This race really made all the difference, as Baker, who wrecked out early, and Howard, who won the race. It is a 20-point difference between first and second, and that pretty much what decided this title. Like I said before, Howard pretty much did the impossible. Vincenzo Focasato finishes the season in third, despite everything going wrong for him in this race. He ends the season with only one top 5 finish, 5 top 10s, and also 4 DNFs. Matter of fact, that 4 DNFs for Howard, Baker, and Focasato are the fewest among the regulars. A lot of people expected Focasato to contend a bit more, however that wasn't the case. He had a rough stretch of races towards the final half of the season, and that pretty much cost any chances he had of winning the title. However, he still has a chance to fight for another title, because in tomorrow's Elite Series finale, he's going to try to win Rookie of the Year. Stacey St. Martin finishes 4th in points. She manages to get 2 top 5s this season, even without the top 5. The fact that she didn't run like complete garbage this season is an accomplishment alone. Richard Scott, who appeared in all but 2 races, will finish 5th in points out of 10 starts. He finishes the season with 3 top 5s and 8 top 10s, which is the most out of anybody this season. Angel Gray ends up 6th in points. If there's any person that is the physical incarnation of Murphy's Law, Gray has gotta be it. One of the, if not the, fastest regular all season long. However, a season's worth of bad luck not only kept her out of victory lane, but also kept her out of a shot to win the title. If it wasn't for that, with 4 top 5s this season, which ties Baker for the most out of the regulars, she very well could have been the champion. It's just that everything that could have gone wrong for her this season has. But Gray will have another shot at the championship as she moves on to the newly rechristened Super Series in 2015, and hopefully she'll have much better luck there. Dale Clow ends up in 7th. Let me just say that Dale Clow should have been the worst ranked among the regulars, but the fact that he ends the season with 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s and has fewer DNFs than some of the regulars he beat, it's not really surprising, and I think that team should give themselves a pat on the back for beating some of the regulars. Patrick Johansson moves up into 8th with the 4th place finish, and this race was pretty much the only reason Johansson is not the worst ranked regular this season. As I mentioned earlier, a season worth of engine failures is what essentially ruined his season almost. 8 DNFs this season, most of them, if not all of them, are because of engine failures. He should be a little embarrassed that he got beat by Dale Clow, but after the way his season's gone, I think he'll be happy finishing 8th. Bradley Carlisle finishes 9th in points. Out of 9 races, this guy's got 3 wins, all consecutive, 5 top 5s and 5 top 10s. Those are some good numbers to go on as he moves on to the Elite Series next season. It's a shame he couldn't end his truck career with 4 straight wins. And Gio Arias finishes 10th in points, the only other repeat winner this season. Has similar numbers to Carlisle, it just has 1 less win. Arias also only started 9 races. Congratulations to Mike Howard for winning the 2014 FARC LoBo Truck Tour Championship. We will be back next year for the brand new FARC Duck Roll Super Series. From everybody at OEN that allowed me to cover this season, I am Jeff Gate, and we will see you in 2015.